Devin Witson, Dima Mixon at the Rock, finally. First home game all in the books. Dima, Southern Miss picks up a 35-10 win. First off, your thoughts? Have at it.
Yeah, when you look back at this game, I think a lot of us were expecting a more dominant performance tonight from Southern Miss. I think they finished with 110 yards rushing or so. Obviously, 70 of those yards came off of Kenyon Clay. That run at the very end where it's kind of garbage time touchdown. They had 2 of those garbage time touchdowns, I would say. You look at this game from a whole, I would say very concerning as far as a lot of ways that you can look at the game. I can look at pass protection. I felt like Rodemaker was under pressure a lot. The receivers weren't getting open downfield. They had a lot of over the middle stuff. Run game was just horrendous until obviously the 70-yard touchdown pass. But this is a Southeastern Louisiana team that we talked about was pretty good. Obviously, Devin picked 70 points that Southern Miss would score tonight. They didn't get close to that. I said 45-10, so I was somewhere in the ballpark, but I expected still a more dominant performance tonight from Southern Miss. And it just didn't happen, and it leaves a lot of questions before a huge game, Devin, next week when Southern Miss hosts South Florida, who, by the way, took Alabama to the fourth quarter tonight.
And that's the thing that we really have to just talk about. There is still very much a lot of uncertainty with the Southern Miss team. I mean, you're expected to go into any FCS school. You're expected to go in there, cakewalk. It's a run-the-mill, easy. It's a test game. We can get the backups in. We can get everyone in. See who's got it, who doesn't, and then we figure it out when it's a bigger team. Now against Southeastern, that first quarter, 7-3. If it wasn't for the muff punt, which I really feel like it kind of shifted the momentum for the Golden Eagles today, I really wouldn't see a chance. I mean, you could say at times, some people would say Southeastern should have been maybe leading at this point. I mean, there was times where you just had constant offensive stallouts. Southeastern getting downfield with ease, it seemed like. But Southern Miss still, they had a good amount of fight, but I definitely have more questions than answers. Then I'm sure this is going to be sorted by USF. I'm sure this is going to be sorted by Jacksonville State, because it seems like the mistakes are still there and very noticeable. I mean, we can go back to the first drive, run play, immediate fumble from Ty Mims, where you have just these questions of a basic run play, and it's a fumble. And that gives Southeastern a prime opportunity to go ahead and score a touchdown, which, unfortunately for the Golden Eagles, they didn't. But it's just a lot more questions that you have, as we have some good old racing in the background, but there's a lot more questions that you have about this team than answers. Yes, Tay Rodemaker, great quarterback, definitely did his thing, but still, that O-line, a lot of work needs to be done in general. This week, more important than ever. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the opponent, obviously you want to have more yards rushing than they did. But, I mean, the real problem that I had with the rushing was not necessarily the amount of yards they didn't have. It's the push on the offensive line that they weren't getting against, obviously, an FCS opponent who, I mean, I don't know. Are they that good? Are we really going to stand here and say that they're going to be that good? I'm not going to say that until I see the proof. I mean,
FCS playoff school, that's really Southeastern's motto.
Yeah, and so, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to be any good, and that to me concerns me. That should concern you if you're a Southern Miss fan. There was no push on the offensive line, and Rodemaker had a man in his face a lot, and that's not the best defensive line they're going to see. They probably saw the best defensive line they're going to see all season last week against Kentucky. But next week, when South Florida comes in here, they're going to have a much more competent offense than Southeastern Louisiana had tonight, where they kind of just ran left, ran right, throw to the tight end, whatever. They didn't really throw any downfield shots. There wasn't any big plays by Southeastern Louisiana. Will Halser said that, we didn't give up any big plays. It's because they didn't throw any big plays. They weren't even attempting to make any big plays. They were just trying to methodically drive it down the field and kind of, run off clock and stay in the game, which they honestly did until the fourth quarter. So their game plan, they came in here, and I rant every single year when an FCS opponent comes in here like Alcorn State did last year, and, it's 3rd and 1, and they, run the ball, then they punt it on 4th and inches or something. I'm like, man, if you're going to come in here and beat an FBS school, you got to shoot your shot. And I felt like Southeastern did that tonight. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to be one of the better teams in the FCS, because we don't know that. So that to me is why it's so concerning for Southern Miss, because there was no push on the offensive line. You had a lot of concerns on that on the wide receivers outside of Larry Simmons, who had a good night tonight. But outside of him, I mean, the next best receiver was Kyron Heath, who's a tight end. I mean, no other receiver got even a catch tonight other than Kyron Heath, Rodriguez Clark, and Justin Reed had the other catches. So you didn't have a pass to Ty Mims. You didn't have a pass to Chandler Pittman. Obviously, Dennis is out tonight. But just, that's concerning just from that sense of the token. You're averaging 2.5 yards a carry before Kenyon Clay breaks off that 70-yard touchdown run. So there's a lot of things to piece out tonight. You can maybe say that this is not a game that you get up for, but I thought it was a game, that you should get up for. It's the home opener. I thought it was actually a decent crowd tonight. And, there's a lot of concerns right now that I would have for the Southern Miss football team and stuff that, we've talked about that could be concerns, but maybe, we were kind of like de factoing it all to like, oh, maybe it's Kentucky. But no, like maybe it is actually a concern. And so, but Devin, you look at Tate Rodemaker's play tonight. I mean, he went 18 for 33, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pretty good day. I mean, you'd expect more, I still think, from a, starting quarterback against an FCS opponent. But I mean, really the problem with it was when you run up the middle and get stuffed every time, and it's 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13, 3rd down and 10, it's really hard for them to galvanize any rhythm on offense, which Rodemaker said at the postgame that's kind of what got them going at the end. I digress because they only had 2 long scoring drives. And like Devin said, outside of that muff punt, they're probably not winning at halftime.
It's honestly just concerning, just to be honest. Whether you're a Southern Miss fan or you're just looking outside from the Sun Belt, you have to wonder what's going to go on with Southern Miss. USF is up next. Arguably a team that I've said multiple times. You can probably quote on me and you can probably make a counter. Right? If you had a nickel for every time I said going to be one of the best G5 teams this year, I fully stand by it. Because against a team that just went into Tuscaloosa, held their own until the 4th quarter, they are probably going to come in here. They're gonna be pissed because I know they want to come in here. They want to say, we know that we can beat Alabama. We're going to see Southern Miss. We want to go in there, make a statement, go to whoever they play next, whether it's in the American Conference or still out of conference. They want to go and just continue to make statement after statement after statement. And it's on Southern Miss to figure out, where do we fix up? Because you mentioned the wide receivers. If your main leading receivers is just one singular receiver, that's a freshman, correct me if I'm wrong on that, and a tight end.
He's not a freshman.
Not a freshman, thank you for correcting me. Just in general, if you have just only 2 main receiving targets, who else is going to step up? And this is not just, I'm beginning to think the world is imploding on Southern Miss football, but it's just a genuine concern that who is going to step up next? When will the O-line get their stuff together? Because honestly, the way they played against Southeastern, a fringe FCS playoff school, and I mean very much a fringe school. I mean, they went 6-6 a couple years back. I mean, their FCS playoff is beating Nicholls State, who held their own against LSU. If you check it's just what does Southern Miss do? What do they really do after this? Because yes, we'll also talk about improvement. You have to improve. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts. It's all about coming in and being the best school, being the best team that you can on this field, because you have 60 minutes to prove yourself, to prove that you're a better team than the team standing in front of you. But where is it?
Yeah, I know Southern Miss knows how big of a game it is next week, but I mean, if I'm sitting here today, there's no way I'm picking Southern Miss to beat South Florida. If they played like they played tonight, they wouldn't have a chance. And, the biggest thing about South Florida is I feel like South Florida is going to be able to move the ball on Southern Miss. And the only reason we're talking about South Florida a bunch is because it's a big game. It's a huge game for the trajectory of this season. I feel like we're about to kick off the field here, but it's a big game for the trajectory of this season. And I don't know if Southern Miss needs to win or if they just need to be competitive. But tonight, if they play like this, they're not going to be competitive because they're going to have to score with South Florida, which is something you'll hear about a lot next week in our previews and stuff. They're going to have to be able to score with South Florida. Can I say they're going to be able to do that tonight? I don't know. I mean, if they can't run the ball against Southeastern Louisiana, why do I think they're going to run the ball against South Florida, let alone Jacksonville State the next week? So it'll be interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks. But I would say overall tonight, it's a sluggish performance. But, I mean, 35-10, still a 25-point win. I mean, I guess it is what it is. Sluggish performance, but the Golden Eagles get the job done.
So with that, of course, you can follow us on Twitter, @Witson, at Dima Mixon. It's been Instant Reactions. We'll probably be back on this next Tuesday with the Tuesday After Show, which seems like we might as well just call it a show now at this point. But hey, that's it. That's been it for us here at The Rock. We'll see you back here next Tuesday. Till then, say goodbye.